You've already worked with the text box control a few times. It's one of the most common controls in ASP.NET. The text box control provides the easiest way to allow users of your site to input text. To begin this lesson, open the My Project sample file from your Sample Files folder. And open controlstest.aspx in Design View. Next, add a text box control to the page. Now set the ID property of your new text box control to textbox test. You now have a text box control with the default properties. Next, you're going to make the text box bigger. Set the width property to 300 px and set the height property to 75 px. Now view the page in your browser. And try typing some text into the text box. Although there's lots of room in the text box, the text all stays on one line. Close the browser now, and you're going to change the text box so that it works with multiple lines. Select the text box and set its text mode property to multi-line. When you set the text mode property, you'll notice a large number of other text modes. The password mode works in exactly the same way as the single line mode, but the text entered by the user is masked by asterisks. This text mode is useful when you want your users to be able to enter text without other people seeing what they enter. The obvious example is passwords. As well as single line, multi-line, and password, you'll see quite a few other options in the text mode drop-down menu. These modes are new HTML5 features that are only supported by the most recent web browsers. For example, setting text mode to date will display a very user-friendly date selection interface if the browser supports the date mode. At the time when this video was recorded, very few web browsers support these features, so they should not be relied upon. Now view the page in your browser again, and once again try entering some text into the text box. This time, the text is spread across multiple lines. Close your web browser now, and you're going to set the width of the text box in columns. As well as setting the width of a text box in pixels, you can also set it using columns. A column is a single letter. Select the text box control, clear the width property, and set the columns property to 50. Note that in the same way, you can set the height of a text box control using the rows property. A row is a single line. It's up to you how you prefer to specify the height and width of a text box control. Next, you're going to add a text changed event handler to your text box control. You learned how to add event handlers in Lesson 3.2. Now add the following code to the new event handler. Response.write textboxtest.text. Now view the page in your browser and type some text into the text box. Nothing actually happens, as the text changed event isn't fired. This is because the page hasn't been posted back, so the server doesn't know that the text has been changed. Close your browser now and return to controlstest.aspx in Design View. Now add a button control to the page and set its ID property to button submit. Now view the page in your browser again, enter some text into the text box, and click the button. The page posts back when you click the button. The server sees that the text has been changed, so the text changed event handler fires, and your C# code adds the text to the top of the response. Now click the button again without changing the text. So the text changed event handler doesn't fire when the page posts back this time. Close your browser now and return to Visual Studio. Finally, you're going to set the maximum length of the text box. Select the text box and set the max length property to 10. Now view the page in your browser and type some text into the text box. Unfortunately, the max length property has no effect. The user can still enter as much text as they like. Close the browser now and set the text mode property of the text box back to single line. Now view the page in your browser again and try entering some text into the text box. This time, the text is limited correctly. Unfortunately, max length does not work with multi-line text boxes. Close your web browser now. And before concluding this lesson, I'd just like to mention the Auto Postback property of the text box control. When a text box control has its Auto Postback property set to true, it will submit the form as soon as the user clicks away from the text after editing it. This is slightly confusing behavior, so it's very rarely used with text box controls. Delete the text box and button controls now, and close Visual Studio, saving your changes if prompted. You've now completed Lesson 4.4. Use the text box control.